Welcome to the Extreme RC Zone HQ. Today, we're strapping in for a real high-performance deep dive.
Yeah. What's on the agenda?
We're looking at how upgrading key parts of your RC car can, unlock a whole new level of thrill and capability.
Ah, okay. So like performance tuning.
Exactly. Whether
Yeah.
you're just unwrapping your first model or you're maybe a seasoned racer gunning for that podium spot.
That's the spirit. We should definitely dissect the upgrades that truly matter, the ones that really transform your driving experience.
Good plan.
Yeah.
What are the big ones?
Well, I think we need to focus on the fundamentals. Things like the connection to the ground, so tires and wheels,
Right, makes sense.
and how your car handles bumps and corners. That's your shocks and suspension.
Okay.
Then there's the raw power, the motor and the ESC.
The go-fast bits.
Pretty much. And of course, the very backbone of the machine, the chassis itself.
Gotcha. And we've got a ton of information to pull from as we explore each of these areas.
Yep.
So our mission today is pretty simple, really. Give you the insights you need to make smart choices about enhancing your RC car.
Right. Make informed decisions.
We want you to feel confident in your upgrades, get the most out of your time and money, and really experience those aha moments.
Yeah. When it all clicks and the car just performs way better.
Exactly. Okay, expert, let's kick things off. Where's the biggest bang for your buck usually? Maybe tires and wheels?
Absolutely. That's often where you feel the most immediate, really noticeable difference.
Really? Why is that?
Think of it like giving your car better shoes. It directly impacts grip, speed, control, even how long your other parts last.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Stock tires, they're usually okay for just, cruising around, but they're not really designed to excel in any one specific situation, are they?
Not at all. It's like wearing, I don't know, the same pair of sneakers for hiking, running, and playing basketball.
Yeah, they'll do, but they won't be ideal for any of them.
Exactly. Stock tires are a compromise, plain and simple. To really tap into your car's potential on different surfaces, you got to understand tire compounds.
Compounds, okay, like the rubber itself.
Yeah. Think of it as a trade-off. Softer compounds, they give you incredible grip. Means you can corner faster, get better traction, stuff like that.
Sounds great.
But they'll wear down way faster. Fantastic for smooth surfaces where you need maximum stickiness, though.
Okay, so sticky but short-lived. What's the alternative?
Harder compounds, they'll last much, much longer, but you sacrifice some of that grip.
Right.
They're better suited for just general driving or bashing around on rough terrain where durability is, more important.
So it's really a choice between ultimate performance right now versus long-term durability.
Got it. Now, what happens when we leave the smooth pavement? Head for the dirt.
That's where tread patterns become crucial. For off-road stuff like dirt or gravel, you need tires with these big, knobby treads, aggressive-looking ones.
Totally. These patterns dig into the loose surface, give you the traction you need to power through, like cleats on a football boot.
Okay.
For on-road speed, though, especially on smooth asphalt or carpet, you want pretty much the opposite. A finer tread pattern, minimal grooves, reduces rolling resistance, lets you hit higher speeds, and keeps things stable.
Okay, big knobs for dirt, smoother for asphalt. That seems straightforward enough. But even within those categories, man, there's so much different tread patterns. What's the secret sauce there?
Well, the nuances in those treads, they're all about optimizing grip for very specific types of loose surfaces.
Okay, like,
So, for example, you might see pin-style treads. They're incredibly effective in loose, loamy dirt. They just dig in tiny claws.
right.
Then you've got maybe square or groove treads. They're designed more to channel away water and debris, give you better grip when things get wet.
Okay, and on-road.
On-road, the goal is just maximum contact with the surface. So those finer treads with minimal grooving, they just maximize the rubber touching the track, reduces drag, increases stability at speed.
Wow, this is way more involved than I first thought. Now, I've also seen foam inserts inside the tires. What's their job? What are they doing in there?
Oh yeah, foam inserts are vital. They basically maintain the tire's shape and provide support, especially important when you're cornering hard and putting a lot of force on those sidewalls.
So the tire doesn't just collapse.
Exactly. Without them, the tire could deform too much, you'd lose grip, lose control, and the firmness of the foam, that makes a big difference too.
How so?
Softer inserts, they generally offer a more cushioned ride, maybe enhance grip a bit on uneven surfaces, but they might wear out faster.
And firmer ones.
Firmer inserts give you better stability at high speeds, but maybe reduce grip a little on really bumpy terrain. Serious racers, they'll often experiment with different foam densities, trying to find that perfect balance for the track and their driving style. It's kind of like fine-tuning the suspension within the tire itself.
That's a great way to put it, finding that sweet spot for your specific needs. Okay, let's talk about the wheels themselves. Are they just there to hold the tires, or do upgrades matter much?
Oh, they absolutely matter. Stock wheels might look okay, but they're often made from, less durable plastic.
Yeah, I've cracked a few.
Right. They can crack or break under stress, like aggressive driving or hard landings. Upgrading to higher quality wheels, maybe aluminum or even carbon fiber, offers big advantages.
Like what?
Well, they're much stronger, obviously. They can withstand way more punishment. Plus, these materials are often lighter than the stock plastic,
Ah, less weight.
which can lead to quicker acceleration, improved overall performance. It's like the difference between a flimsy plastic toy wheel and a proper alloy rim on a real car.
So, stronger and lighter sounds like a total no-brainer for performance then. Are there different types of wheels I should know about beyond the material?
Yeah, wheel size matters, specifically the diameter and the width. They play a crucial role in handling.
How does that work?
Generally, wider wheels give you more stability, kind of plant the car more, especially in corners. Narrower wheels can offer sharper, more agile turning.
Okay.
You might also see wheels with a split design and bead lock rings.
Bead locks, what are those?
They're rings that physically clamp the tire bead to the wheel. It basically eliminates the risk of the tire popping off during intense racing or, high-impact situations.
That sounds super useful, especially for racing or hard bashing.
Definitely a lifesaver when you're really pushing it.
Okay, one last question on this tire on wheel stuff, tire pressure.
Yeah.
Is that something RC folks actually mess with?
Absolutely. It's often overlooked, honestly, but tire pressure can dramatically affect performance.
Really?
For off-road driving, you usually want to run them slightly deflated. Lets them conform to the uneven terrain better, increases the contact patch, gives you more grip over bumps and ruts.
Kind of like letting air out of mountain bike tires for a trail.
Exactly like that. Conversely, for on-road racing, you typically want higher pressure.
Okay.
Helps the tires maintain their shape, reduces rolling resistance, improves speed and stability at those high speeds.
Wow, so even the air pressure in those tiny tires makes a difference. Okay, so the big takeaway on tires and wheels, it seems, is that choosing the right compounds, treads, foams, all mounted on durable wheels. It's fundamental.
Totally. It's key to maximizing your car's potential on any surface. Investing here is definitely a smart first step into the extreme RC zone.
Couldn't agree more. It's the foundation. All right, let's move on then. How about how the car handles all that varied terrain, the shocks and suspension?
Ah, yes, the magic bits that keep the car from bouncing all over the place.
Yeah. I know suspension is vital for real cars, obviously, but how critical is it for high-performance RC racing in our extreme zone?
It's absolutely critical. The suspension in your RC car, it does way more than just provide a comfy ride.
Right.
It's responsible for keeping consistent contact between the tires and the ground, controlling how the car reacts to bumps, jumps. It ultimately dictates its handling, its durability, and, yeah, your lap times.
And the stock stuff is usually pretty basic.
Often, yeah. Limited options for adjustment. Upgrading here can unlock a really significant leap in performance.
So at its heart, what do upgraded shocks and springs actually do for my RC car? What's the core function?
Well, their primary job is absorbing impacts from uneven surfaces, jumps, landings, you name it. But maybe more importantly, upgraded shocks and springs let your car maintain consistent traction and stability.
Oh.
Imagine hitting a bump. A good suspension absorbs that impact quickly, lets the tire stay in contact with the ground so you keep control.
Keeps it planted.
Whether you're launching off a ramp or carving through corners, a well-tuned suspension is just essential.
Okay, and oil seal shocks, they seem to be the gold standard for upgrades. What makes them so much better than the basic friction ones?
Oil-filled shocks offer vastly superior damping performance.
Damping.
Yeah, damping is the shock's ability to control how quickly the suspension compresses and rebounds after an impact. Inside these shocks is oil, right?
Yeah.
And by changing the thickness or the weight of this oil, you can fine-tune how the shock reacts.
How does that work?
Heavier oil means slower damping. That's often better for rough terrain where you don't want the suspension bouncing back too quickly and losing contact.
Okay.
Lighter oil allows for faster reactions. That can be good on smooth tracks for quick transitions and stuff. Plus, good oil shocks have better seals, prevent leaks, ensure consistent performance. Unlike basic shocks, that can feel pretty inconsistent sometimes.
That adjustability sounds like a total game changer for dialing in the handling. What about the shocks themselves, the bodies? Is aluminum a big step up from plastic?
Oh yeah, for sure. Upgrading to aluminum shocks gives you several key advantages. First, durability. Aluminum is way stronger than the plastic in many stock shocks, much less likely to crack or break under stress.
Makes sense.
Second, heat dissipation. Aluminum gets rid of heat much better.
Heat from the shocks.
Yeah, that constant up and down motion generates heat, which can affect the oil's performance inside. Aluminum helps draw that heat away, keeps the damping consistent.
Interesting.
You'll also often see upgrades to the shock towers, the parts the shocks mount to, made from aluminum or even lightweight, rigid carbon fiber. Provides a more stable platform.
And more adjustment.
Often, yeah. High-end towers frequently have multiple mounting holes, lets you fine-tune the suspension geometry even more by changing the shock angle.
So stronger shocks on stronger mounts, it's all about robustness and consistent performance then. What about the other bits, like the suspension arms and links? Are those worth upgrading too?
Absolutely. Stock suspension arms, usually plastic, right? They can flex or even break during aggressive use or crashes.
In there.
Yeah. Upgrading to arms made from aluminum or carbon fiber significantly increases strength and rigidity. And that rigidity, it translates to more precise handling because there's less unwanted movement or flex in the system.
Okay. And the links.
Same idea. Upgrading the suspension links, those rods connecting different parts to stronger materials like steel or adjustable aluminum, lets you fine-tune the car's alignment. Specifically things like camber and roll center.
Camber and roll center, what do they affect?
Camber affects how the tires contact the ground when you're cornering. Roll center influences how much the car leans. Adjusting these can dramatically improve cornering performance and overall handling.
Man, so it's not just about soaking up bumps. It's really about having precise control over how the car behaves in every situation.
Yeah.
And you mentioned adjustability being a huge benefit.
Exactly. The ability to fine-tune your suspension is a massive advantage of upgraded components. High-end shocks might let you adjust not just the oil weight and shock position, but also ride height, even compression and rebound damping independently sometimes. This level of customization lets experienced drivers optimize their car's setup for specific tracks, specific conditions. You know, for a smooth, high-grip track, maybe you want a stiffer suspension to minimize body roll.
Right.
But for a bumpy off-road course, a softer setup with more suspension travel would be better for soaking up the terrain.
It sounds like mastering suspension tuning is a whole skill in itself. But the potential for improved handling is obviously huge.
Yeah.
So the key insight here for our extreme RC zone is that upgrading shocks and suspension gives you better control, stability handling, whether you're on pavement or dirt.
And the adjustability lets you really dial things in.
Perfect. Okay, are you ready to unleash some serious power now? Let's talk motor and ESC upgrades.
Precisely. It's about maximizing that connection to the ground, making sure it responds predictably. Yeah, let's get into the power system.
Absolutely. This is where we inject some serious adrenaline into our RC machines, right? So the motor and ESC, they control everything from like blistering acceleration to controlled braking. What are the limits of the stock setups we usually get?
Stock motor and ESC systems, they're typically designed to be, cost-effective and offer adequate performance for casual use, just getting started.
Okay.
But for anyone looking to really push their RC cars to the limit in the extreme RC zone, they often lack the raw power, the efficiency, and the precise control you get from higher quality aftermarket options.
So upgrades mean more speed, better handling.
Definitely. Upgrading these components can lead to really dramatic improvements in acceleration, top speed, throttle response.
Yeah.
It can even extend your battery life sometimes.
Okay, let's start with the heart of it, the motors.
Yeah.
You mentioned brushed and brushless earlier. Can you give us the rundown? Key differences. Why go one way or the other for performance?
Certainly. Brushed motors are kind of the older tech, generally cheaper, simpler, pretty decent starting point, but they're less efficient. They produce less power for the energy they use, tend to generate more heat, and they have a shorter lifespan because of the actual brushes inside that rub against the commutator.
Yeah.
Causes friction, wear.
Okay, so dated tech. What about brushless?
Brushless motors are a huge leap forward. Performance, efficiency, durability, all better.
How do they work?
They use electromagnetic fields to drive the rotor, so there are no physical brushes. That means less friction, less wear and tear, less heat buildup.
As the result.
Much greater power output, higher top speeds, more torque for better acceleration, and longer run times too.
Huh.
For anyone serious about pushing their RC car to its limits, brushless is, unequivocally the way to go.
So brushless is the clear winner for anyone craving maximum performance.
Got it. Now, what about that KV rating I always hear about with brushless motors? What's that telling me?
Right, the KV rating is basically a measure of the motor's speed potential. It tells you how many revolutions per minute, RPM, the motor will spin for each volt of power you apply.
So higher KV equals faster.
Generally, yeah, a higher KV rating translates to a higher potential top-end speed. But, and this is important, a motor with a very high KV might sacrifice some low-end torque, some acceleration.
Ah, okay. So not always best. Not always. That torque is critical for off-road driving or navigating tight technical track sections. Often, finding a motor with a balanced KV rating that matches your driving style and where you run is the best approach. It's about finding the right blend of speed and pulling power, you know?
It makes perfect sense, matching the motor's characteristics to how and where you drive. Okay, now let's talk about the brains behind the operation, the ESC, the electronic speed controller. What does an upgraded ESC bring to the table?
The ESC acts as the go-between, right? Battery to the motor, regulates power flow, controls speed, braking. A stock ESC often has pretty limited capabilities for customization. Might not even handle the demands of a high-power brushless motor.
So what do upgrades offer?
Upgrading your ESC unlocks a significant level of fine-tuning. You can often program various parameters, like the throttle curve that dictates how the motor responds to your trigger finger.
Okay.
You can adjust the braking force strength, even set up multiple power profiles you can switch between depending on track conditions or just how you feel like driving.
Multiple profiles, that's cool.
Yeah. And high-quality ESCs usually have much better heat dissipation, too. Essential for preventing overheating, especially when running powerful motors and pushing hard.
So it's not just handling more power, it's having much finer control over how that power gets delivered. Any other benefits of a good ESC?
Yeah, modern brushless ESCs often come packed with important safety features. LiPo cutoff is a big one.
What's that?
It stops you from running your lithium polymer batteries down too far, which can damage them permanently. They might also have low voltage protection, thermal overload protection to stop the ESC itself from frying.
Good safety nets.
Absolutely. And it's vital, totally vital, to make sure your ESC is properly matched and compatible with the motor you're using. Brushless ESC for brushless motor. Gotta handle the current, the voltage.
Right, compatibility is key. And you touched on batteries there. How do they fit into this whole high-performance power equation?
The battery is absolutely integral. Can't ignore it. Upgrading your motor and ESC often means you have to think about your battery options too.
LiPos are standard now, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Lithium, polymer, LiPo batteries are dominant for high-performance RC in the extreme RC zone. Superior power output, longer run times compared to the old NIM-H packs.
So what do I look for in LiPo?
Several things. Voltage, usually shown as 2S, 3S, 4S, and so on. Higher voltage generally means more speed, but your ESC has to be rated for it.
Right.
Capacity, measured in milliamp hours, A. That basically determines your runtime, how long you can drive.
Longer run.
Yep. And then there's the C rating. That indicates the battery's discharge rate, how much current it can safely deliver to the motor. Really important for high-power motors that draw a lot of amps.
So it sounds like it's a really carefully balanced system. Motor, ESC, battery, they all need to work together perfectly for peak performance and, not blowing up.
Yeah, preferably not blowing up. That's the goal.
So key takeaway.
Okay.
Upgrading motor and ESC boosts speed, throttle response, efficiency.
Yeah.
And pairing them with the right battery unlocks the full potential.
Precisely. A well-matched, high-performance power system is the absolute beating heart of any serious RC machine in the extreme RC zone. Okay, ready for the final piece? The foundation.
Let's do it. The chassis and frame the very skeleton of our RC beasts. I get that the chassis provides structure, but how much of a performance difference can upgraded chassis really make? Is it noticeable?
Oh, absolutely. The chassis is truly the foundation. Everything bolts onto it. Upgrading it can have a profound impact on strength, rigidity, and ultimately handling. While the stock chassis might be okay for basic driving, stepping up to a high-performance option can deliver a really noticeable improvement, especially when you start pushing the limits in our extreme RC zone.
So what are the typical weak points of a standard out-of-the-box chassis?
Stock chassis, they're often made from plastic or maybe some kind of composite material, and while that offers some flexibility, which can absorb some impacts, it can also be prone to cracking, bending, or just flexing too much, especially under the intense stress of high-speed racing or repeated hard landings.
Right, that flex can't be good for handling.
Exactly. That lack of rigidity negatively affects handling precision, overall stability, especially at higher speeds. Things feel kind of vague.
Okay, so what kind of material upgrades do people usually look at for their chassis then?
The most common upgrades involve moving to materials like aluminum or carbon fiber, sometimes even titanium and really high-end stuff.
Aluminum seems popular.
Yeah, aluminum offers a fantastic balance of weight and strength. It's way more durable than plastic, gives much better protection against crash damage. And the increased rigidity really improves handling and stability by minimizing that chassis flex.
Okay, and carbon fiber. That sounds exotic.
It kind of is. Carbon fiber takes it to another level. It's incredibly strong, but exceptionally lightweight. Amazing strength-to-weight ratio.
So lighter and stiffer.
Exactly. Makes it a top choice for competitive racers looking to maximize performance. The reduced weight helps acceleration, agility, and the high rigidity further enhances handling precision. It is more expensive, though.
Naturally. And titanium.
Titanium is even stronger and lighter than steel, though maybe not quite as rigid as carbon fiber sometimes. Found in very high-end setups where every gram counts and you need maximum durability without adding too much weight.
Wow, okay. So it sounds like moving to these advanced materials gives a serious boost in both durability and performance. What about the actual design of the chassis itself? Are there different shapes or configurations that offer advantages?
Absolutely. Stock chassis are often designed as a sort of general-purpose, one-size-fits-all solution. Upgrading to a chassis with a race-specific design can yield big improvements in handling.
Like how?
Well, for example, many race chassis are engineered with a lower center of gravity.
Oh, like a sports car.
Exactly. Dramatically enhances cornering ability, stability, especially at speed. Plus, upgraded chassis often offer more flexibility for weight distribution. They might have features allowing you to strategically reposition components, battery, motor, ESC, to get a more balanced weight distribution. Optimizing that balance lets you fine-tune how the car handles for different tracks, different driving styles, gives you a competitive edge in the extreme RC zone.
That makes total sense. Lower center of gravity, optimized weight balance, fundamental stuff for better handling. Okay, so the key takeaway here seems to be upgrading the chassis enhances performance, durability, and handling. Stronger, lighter, more rigid chassis means better impact absorption, speed, stability, more precise control.
Exactly right. It provides a more stable, more predictable platform, allowing all those other high-performance parts to really work together at their absolute best.
Well, this has been an absolutely electrifying deep dive into RC car upgrades right here at the Extreme RC Zone HQ.
Yeah.
We've covered so much ground, from the tires hitting the dirt to the frame holding it all together.
We certainly have. We've looked at how upgrading tires and wheels gives you that crucial grip and control. How enhanced shocks and suspension improve stability and handling over pretty much any terrain.
Yeah.
How more powerful motors and ESCs deliver that thrilling speed and responsiveness.
The fun stuff.
And how a superior chassis provides the strength and rigidity you need for peak performance.
And hopefully, with all this knowledge, our listeners now have a clearer roadmap for taking their own RC experience to the next level, right here in the Extreme RC Zone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether your goal is dominating on the track, conquering some challenging off-road courses, or maybe just enjoying a more responsive, more capable machine, those really exhilarating aha moments are now well within reach, hopefully.
Totally agree. Each upgrade is really a step towards unlocking the full potential of your RC car, experiencing that ultimate thrill of the Extreme RC Zone.
So, as you listening contemplate your own RC car, think about the potential for upgrades. Here's maybe a final thought to rev your engines. Considering the intricate way all these components work together, what single upgrade do you believe would have the most significant impact on your current RC setup and your personal driving style? And what exciting new possibilities might that unleash for you in the Extreme RC Zone?
Ooh, good question to ponder.
Definitely something to think about as you gear up for your next run. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive into the heart of RC performance.